Warning, the following podcast is a shit show, and the individuals you are about to meet are idiots. Their opinions, anecdotes, and advice contain zero nutritional value. This is the critical human condition and all of its strangeness. This is life, according to an idiot.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome to the new year, baby.
Welcome to a new episode of According to an Idiot. I'm your host, Jeremy.
It's me, your favorite host, Kaylee.
That's a good voice.
Does that feel good for you?
Okay, well, let's stop this. It's going to get weird.
Are you getting a boner?
I didn't know your voice could do that.
This is my normal shrill woman voice, and this is Sexy Kaylee, Date Night Kaylee.
And this is NPR Jeremy. See,
when
I do that, I just sound like Fresh Air with Terry Gross.
Jeremy, that was one of my New Year's resolutions, was to have a sexier podcast voice. Lay some resolutions on me. Do you have any? Have you thought about it?
Consume more mayonnaise.
Gross. You know, there's too much mayonnaise in the world. I've always said that.
Too much mayonnaise, not enough butter knives with which to eat the mayonnaise.
Blech. If anything comes with mayo, it's always light mayo for me.
I agree. Oh, whoever asks for heavy mayo is a psychopath.
I used to work with somebody who always asked for extra mayo, and I about socked her in the face every time.
Yeah, that's a whore. Anyone who requests heavy mayo is a whore.
Yes.
I am just getting over a cold, and I'm still a little stuffed up, as you can hear. And one of the issues that I learned being nasally congested is you often sniff.
Right.
Just to sort of get everything up back into your skull where it belongs. And I realized that in public, it's really difficult not to make it look like you're inhaling someone's aroma. Because if I am in the line at Barnes & Noble's, and I walk behind a pretty young woman, click, clack, click, clack. Like, that sounds weird.
But it's also like, ew, that guy's sick, and I don't want him near me.
Yeah. Well, I just want her to know that I was close enough to another human to get a disease, which shows that I am a social person. You know, perhaps I was tonguing somebody.
Or also, you probably just put your hand on a doorknob that a sick person touched.
Well, I don't want her to know that. I want her to think that, I was probably making out with some sick ladies.
Right, and then she'll want to make out with you and also get the sick.
Yep. That's how bacteria works. It makes you want to spread it.
Yeah.
It makes you want to spread those legs. Makes me want to spread my legs.
So, Jeremy, you didn't answer the question. What's your New Year's resolution?
I want to try. This is always like a mini resolution every year. Is like going to the gym and finally becoming a muscular beast.
Yes.
I don't know if it will ever happen, if I'm being totally honest with myself.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll ever happen, but I'm going to, again this year, reinstate the tried and true resolution of getting in shape.
Yeah, I made a list of my 2019 goals.
Yeah.
And I almost put that one on there, but then I knew I wouldn't do it, so I didn't want to disappoint myself.
Right, yeah.
So I just didn't add it.
Yeah, well, just do it in pencil so you can erase it by next New Year's.
Like, I do want to get active again because I really love working out, and I really fell in love with running, and just like working out in general, I love the, like, I don't know, you just feel good afterwards, and it's really therapeutic, I think. That's one thing I really miss, and even if it's not like running or working out, I want to substitute that somehow, just clearing my head and just, I don't know, sorting my thoughts out.
Yeah, mindless.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so
like whenever I need to clear my head, I drive around.
Yeah.
And then I look for a park and I look for young women that are walking alone and then I kill them.
Ah, that's good. I like that.
That's my little thing that I do, you know.
Usually for me, it's I also go to the park, but usually I find dogs that are unattended.
Yeah.
And then I like to stick my finger in their butt.
Okay.
I don't know. It's just very relaxing because I know they're getting pleasure from it.
They just don't have the tools to say so.
Right. And I'm a giver. I love to make other people happy. And, you know, it's hard when you're single and you maybe don't have somebody to make happy. So you got to just make do with what you have. And
when you stick that finger in, that golden retriever becomes a golden receiver, if you know what I mean.
I love that. Any other resolutions you want to tell me about?
There's definitely going to be more. I mean, I think that...
you haven't, like, sat down and thought about it?
No, not really. I think that sometimes if I get too specific with it, it doesn't normally manifest. What I've done the last 2 years that have been really good is I'll give myself like a mantra or a word. Like 2 years ago, it was create.
Okay.
And so I started like drawing on this tablet, and I learned how to use Photoshop and Adobe software. And then last year was pursue, and I started to stick with stuff more. Like we got this podcast off the ground, and I didn't give up on it. We kept on going. So I got to find a word for this year.
I'm a very like analytical person in a sense. I really love to make lists.
Yeah.
And I like to have plans. I don't know. I like to have some direction, some path to follow, or else I just feel lost. I have a few. I won't share them all.
Let's hear them.
But one was with the podcast. I would like to get at least 200 listens per episode. I feel like that's a very attainable goal in the next year.
If we keep on doing it.
If we keep on doing it.
We keep on putting our best foot forward.
Woo, woo, woo. I would like to write down something positive every day.
You know what you can do? I know what a lot of people do like that is they get a jar and they write stuff, a good thing, and they
that's what I'm
put it
doing.
in the jar, and then whenever they feel sad, they take that one positive thing out of the jar.
Yeah, and then next year, I want to open them all up, and I want to read everything that happened, one positive thing every single day. Like, the last year was really, like, a big transformative year for me, and a lot of things changed, and I want to, like, keep the momentum and just...
Yeah.
I don't know. Work on myself.
Well, what you did was you set the groundwork for this year.
Exactly.
And, the rest of your life.
Exactly, yeah.
So, 2019, here we come.
Here we come.
Guns
I'm
loaded.
feeling real optimistic and motivated about it.
I think it's going to be a good year.
Me too. So viewer question.
Really quick viewer question.
All right, so what is the difference between whiskey and bourbon? Now, I Googled this because I didn't immediately know the difference between whiskey and bourbon.
Oh, but I knew this because I am an alcoholic.
Yeah. Apparently, all bourbon is whiskey, but not all whiskey is bourbon.
Yes,
that's
a very logical way to put it.
But
whiskey is the umbrella term, and like for example,
Right.
Scotch is whiskey made in Scotland, and bourbon is typically American whiskey, more specifically down south. Even more specifically, like Kentucky.
Basically, whiskey is just like fermented grain from a bunch of different varieties, and then it's aged in wooden barrels.
Yeah.
And bourbon is too, but bourbon has specific specifications it has to meet for it to be considered bourbon. Those would be, in case you're curious, that it needs to be produced in America and made from 51% corn, and whiskey does not. Bourbon needs to be stored in new charred oak barrels, and bourbon also needs to be distilled to a specific proof level that whiskey does not. So basically, bourbon is like a very specific kind of whiskey. So Jeremy, what's our segment for the week?
Well, you chose this one.
I did choose this one. You chose aliens last week, and this week I chose what?
Voodoo.
Hoodoo?
I do.
You do. Voodoo. Yeah. Tell me, Jeremy.
Oh, boy, let me tell you.
How did voodoo happen? How start? What is...
You might be asking yourself, what am voodoo?
Sharing their curiosity to know the unknown, their tension, their readiness for inconceivable adventure.
Is it human or inhuman? Earthly or unearthly? The voodoo curse strikes.
A police report says that his wife was putting voodoo on him and evil spirits.
Unbelievable? Fantastic? But I tell you, it could happen.
Frenier, Louisiana, 1915. Somewhere on the edge of town sits the home of Julia Brown. Through the gnarled branches of the ghost-gray cypress trees you can spot it. An old cabin, half sunk in the wild bog of the Manchac wetlands. Some days you can catch a glimpse of her, a familiar silhouette sitting on the porch, the voodoo queen herself. She fiddles with the guitar, slightly out of tune, singing strange songs. Once, townsfolk heard her singing, "One day I'm gonna die and take the whole town with me." At this time, the logging town of Frenier was a sleepy little hamlet nestled on the edge of Lake Pontchartrain. If not for the railroad tracks that ran through the town, the land and its people would be living in isolation. Frenier had no roads, no electricity, no doctors. When you needed help, you came to Julia Brown. With the snap of her fingers, she could make you right again. Some folks allegedly took advantage of Julia and her gift, demanding more and more from her. Greedy customers in desperate need of cures, scorned lovers requesting curses. And when Julia died in late September 1915, her absence was felt by all. And at the burial service, upon driving the final nail into her coffin lid, there was a change in the air. A storm was rolling in. September 29th, 1915, a hurricane swept in from the Caribbean. The wind howled and lashed across the land at 125 miles per hour. Trees bent and tore from the ground.
One day I'm gonna die.
Those fast enough took refuge in the train station, but it too collapsed under the stress of the storm, killing over 25 people beneath it.
And take the whole town with me.
The storm surge had risen to 13 feet, drowning the farmland. Houses disappeared beneath the black current. When the storm cleared on October 1st, there wasn't much left of Frenier. Some accounts claim there to have been as few as 2 survivors from the storm. Today, the old logging town has become one with the swampland. But the question remains, did Julia Brown curse the Louisiana town? Or was her song a warning? Those brave enough to tour the area often speak of the eeriness, how strange it is to see the occasional remnant of a cabin, reminding them that this had once been someone's home, now reclaimed by nature. They'll mention the gators and the crickets and the birds, and the peculiar ghost of a woman who speaks in the night. If you listen closely, you might just hear her singing.
We don't have time for art, Jeremy.
So what does this mean?
It means voodoo.
Voodoo? Yeah, I don't know what it means. Anyways, let's talk about voodoo. Okay, so let me just explain to you the history of voodoo. And this is such a fucking complicated thing, and I'm going to get some things wrong. So if you know a lot about voodoo and you're listening to this, please do not correct me. So voodoo is a religious practice often characterized by sorcery and spirit possession. This was made popular in the Caribbean and southern United States. However, it does originate from Central and West Africa.
Yes.
Do not say yes. This is the first time you're hearing about this. I think going into this, I had a lot of preconceptions of what voodoo was about, and I was not totally wrong, but I was
mostly wrong.
Mostly wrong.
Me too.
So voodoo is kind of a cocktail of a bunch of different religions, and the term for that is syncretic. Syncretism is the merging or assimilation of 2 or more schools of thought, especially with religious beliefs. So voodoo combines elements of Roman Catholicism and traditional African mysticism and religious rite, and what you get is this really strange composite of superstition and idol worship. So let's talk about where it all started. Voodoo originated around 6,000 years ago in the African kingdoms of... Okay, again, there's some weird names that are going to be thrown around. If I say them wrong...
You are going to say them wrong.
I'm going to say them wrong, so I apologize to anyone who practices voodoo or voodoo. Voodoo originated around 6,000 years ago in the African kingdoms of Fon and Congo. The word voodoo itself comes from the Fon language, meaning sacred, spirit, or deity. Most of the terminology originates from Fon and Congo languages. For example, voodoo priestesses are often called Mambos or Mambos, like Mambo number 5.
Ooh.
Mambo itself is a combination of the Fon word for mother and the Congo word for healer. So, F off, you mother healer. The Fon kingdom existed in what is now southern Benin, which is a region that anthropologists sometimes call the cradle of voodoo. It's where it all started. So today, voodoo is an official religion in Benin, and throughout the nation, the African nations of Togo, Ghana, and Benin, a combined estimate of 30 million people practice voodoo.
Wow, that's a
just
lot.
in 3 countries.
I know in Haiti it's really big too, right?
What we're going to be discussing typically in this is Haitian voodoo and then American voodoo.
Yes.
But there is a lot of different deviations of it. Like, have you ever heard of Santeria?
No.
Santeria is, I believe, a Cuban sort of spin on... It's not literally voodoo, but it's very similar to where they worship certain saints that are based off of Catholic saints.
Okay.
Practitioners, that being people that practice voodoo, are called voodooists, which is kind of a stretch. I wouldn't think to be called that. Voodooists believe in a supreme creator known as Bandai. I think that's the way you pronounce it, but it's derived from the French bon Dieu, or good God. So when you say good God,
You say bandu.
if you see something shocking, you say, good God, you are a voodooist. Bandai is like a distant, unknowable god that allegedly created the universe and everything in it. And then he said, you know what, I'm going to step back and just relax. I'm going to assign like the rules of governing this world I created to a bunch of spirits called Lua. I hope I'm saying this right. So a bunch of these little mini gods called Lua. Think of them
they're
almost
like spirits.
Yeah, they're like angels or saints.
We're spirits.
They're actually literally spirits. So,
They're actually,
so a
yes.
bunch of spirits named Luas.
What I read is that this main god or creator is so powerful and just so out of reach that people turn to the Lua to basically get shit done.
And I'm going to get more to the Luas in just a moment. But first, let's pop on by Haiti and say Haiti to them. Okay. There's a popular adage in Haiti that goes, Haiti is 90% Catholic, 10% Protestant, and 100% Voodoo. So, hey, Kaylee, guess what? Guess who's going to pay us a visit? Your favorite historical figure, Christopher.
Will Smith.
No. Christopher Columbus.
Back him.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He's a great guy. You always know it's going to be a good time when he shows up in your history lesson. Mm-hmm. So in 1492, Columbus lands on what is modern-day Haiti, an island nation known to the natives as Haiti. Columbus would go on to rename this land Hispaniola, or Little Spain, which is the cutest name I've ever heard. So as we know, wherever good old Chris goes, slavery tends to follow.
Death, destruction.
And Haiti is no exception. Colonists arrive and build plantations where they grow and harvest primarily sugar, coffee, and indigo. These plantations relied heavily, spoiler alert, on slave labor. Can you believe it?
Not tell me anything I don't know already.
In the 16th through the 18th century, many slaves brought to Haiti had come from Central and Western Africa and had practiced an original form of voodoo. So here's the problem, though. In the colonies, they were Christian. They followed Catholicism. The slave owners required all of their slaves to be baptized as Christians. Ruh-roh, but I practice voodoo. I can't, huh?
I don't want to be subject to your god.
But hey, you know what? It happens to the best of us. So additionally, the Catholic slave owners actively would suppress any forms of non-Christian worship, which was kind of a bit of a roadblock for the voodooists.
Right.
They said, here's a loophole. We are going to simply continue to practice voodoo, but disguise it as Catholicism. So the slaves borrowed many elements from Catholicism to protect their spiritual practices, which would forever influence voodoo in Haiti and across the world. So the Catholic conversion. The Lua were replaced with whatever corresponding Catholic saints they could find. For example, St. Peter in, Christian belief is seen as the gatekeeper to the kingdom of heaven, which corresponded with the Lua called Papa Legba. In the Voodoo religion, he is the spirit world's gatekeeper.
Okay.
They said, hey, you know what? We can still worship Papa Legba, but just call him St. Peter and just have little statues of St. Peter.
Right.
Those dummies will think that we're just doing our Catholic stuff. So they began citing Catholic hymns and prayers at voodoo services. And also Catholic holidays became voodoo holidays for the corresponding luas. They adopted the Christian cross not as a symbol of the crucifix, but as a symbol of the crossroads, which represents life-altering choices in the spiritual path of voodoo followers. So this alternative form of voodoo is what is known as creolized voodoo.
Sure.
Because think of Creole, which brings us into New Orleans voodoo, Louisiana voodoo, American voodoo. Isn't this a wild ride through time, you guys?
It is.
Aren't you
I
so glad?
enjoy this.
Aren't you guys so glad we're here? So let's talk about American voodoo. More specifically, Louisiana voodoo and Southern hoodoo.
You do.
It's starting to sound like nothing to me. American voodoo, especially hoodoo, tends to put more focus on holy items like charms and potions. I don't know why. That's just a very clear distinction. So in hoodoo, the Bible itself is seen through a different lens. So they see certain biblical figures as hoodoo doctors or voodoo doctors. And they consider the scripture itself to be a book of spells. The Bible is seen as a sort of amulet and believed to bring you luck when it's in your possession. So hoodoo originated in plantations around the Mississippi Delta region, but blossomed out into other parts of the American South during the Great Migration of the early 20th century. And that's when African Americans began to move up north into cities and stuff. So the term hoodoo was often defined as a paranormal consciousness. Like it's very conceptual, the idea of hoodoo. Hoodoo is like a spiritual hypnosis that you are in when you believe. So the Atlantic slave trade is what brought everybody to America. You know what I mean? The Atlantic slave trade is how the Creole stuff happened as well. It syncretized, bringing back that vocab word of syncretic. It syncretized voodoo with Catholicism and the French influence that was taking place in Louisiana.
Right.
Louisiana voodoo is what we typically think of when we think of voodoo. And that is New Orleans, Mardi Gras, voodoo queens, stuff like that, which I'm sure some of your stuff's about. Okay, cool. So I'll leave most of that to you. And I want to just really quickly, before I pass this over, I want to talk about Nanchans.
Ooh.
Which are
Nanchans.
They are the respective families that these Lua fall into.
There's quite a few.
Well, there's a bunch. So what I'm going to do is I'm taking a little bit from each family. I can't go into full depth of every family. So
just give me a little taste.
So here's some Nanchans, which I guess Nanchan is as a derivative of like the term nation. Because
okay.
like little mini tribes, little nations
makes sense.
of Lua. Some of them have like certain colors that you associate with them. So the Rada.
Is that red?
No, it's white. They call them water spirits. Papa Legba is one of them.
Okay.
That's the
gateway.
The gatekeeper. There's Loco, the patron spirit of healers and plants, especially trees for some reason. Don't ask me why. Dambala, who is one of the most important of the Luas. He is referred to as Sky Father. He's the primordial creator of all life. He rules the mind, intellect, and cosmic equilibrium. So there is a distinction between him and Bandai.
Okay. That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, he's the Papa Lua.
Okay.
I mean, they call him Sky Father, which is just Air Daddy. Now let's go on to the Petro Lua, the new family. They're very fiery and warlike. They're ornery and they're pissed off. So there's Azili Dantor, who is the Lua of vengeance and rage. Funny enough, it was made popular by single mothers during the 1980s and 1990s in Haiti. I don't know why. Maybe like female empowerment. Then there's Marionette, who is the Lua of power and violence. And it's suggested that her physical form is that of a skeleton. So spooky. She's often called Marionette of the Dry Arms.
Well, I mean, if she's a skeleton.
Yeah, I was figured it either means dry like bones or dry like eczema. By the way, the Petro family's color is red. This is the last little family I'll cover. This is the Gede. Ghede. I'm assuming it's Gede. I don't know, guys. I'm so sorry. This is stressing me out. So these are the spirits of the dead. This is my favorite. These are the best ones. So they are traditionally led by the Barons. They are characterized as being loud, rude, overtly sexual, and debaucherous. You have Baron LaCroix, like the sparkling beverage. There's also another Baron called Baron Samedi and Baron Criminal, but it's spelled with a K. And
Baron spelled with a K?
No. Baron is the title, and then Criminal is the name. But it's Kriminel. It's like a phonetic criminal. So Baron Criminal, he gets super protective of criminals, and he'll hurt you if you try to hurt a criminal.
What?
Yeah, I know. It's very confusing. Baron Samedi is the spirit of like cemeteries and stuff. And he's the guy, he walks around with like a top hat on. He's like a skeleton and he has a suit and he's awesome. Yeah, so I'm going to throw it over to you while I go take a Xanax and lay down. Okay, Kaylee, take it away.
So I'm going to talk about voodoo and spells and all the mysticisms. So basically, the belief of voodoo is that the faith teaches us to bless nature and support cosmic harmony for the purposes of masking divine magnetism. That's a quote I have from somebody who does voodoo stuff.
Now explain to me what that means, because I don't understand a lick of that.
So basically, what they're saying is that voodoo as a religion teaches them to live in harmony with nature and that everything has a soul. So like trees have a soul and plants have a soul. Yeah. And there's basically two worlds. There's the physical world and then there's the invisible world of like all the spirits and the souls and all that stuff that you can't see.
Researching some of the voodoo stuff, it kind of reminded me of like paganism, you know?
Yeah.
Where everything has a spirit.
Right.
Everything's its own little god. I mean, obviously, it's a little more complicated and complex.
Right. I guess, like, main point is that voodoo is kind of belief that one doesn't see all that exists. There definitely are, like, the darker aspects of voodoo, the black magic and conjuring of, like, evil forces, but it's not really common practice.
Because I found out that there's such a thing as black magic and white magic.
Yeah, white magic is also a thing.
I didn't know that white magic was a thing. So white magic is like magic for the good, and black magic is magic for the bad.
Right. Black magic is like revenge.
Yeah.
Like trying to hurt somebody. White magic is like love spells and health. Another big misconception is the animal sacrifice. They do sacrifice animals as an offering to the spirits, but it's not as like brutal or common as at least that I thought it would be.
It's consensual.
It's consensual, but they also eat it afterwards. So it's like not really any different than you like killing a pig to eat it afterwards. They just
Right.
also use it for their
Yeah.
like religious kind of rituals and things of that nature. So I want to talk about first is the type of spiritual illnesses that you can get. So they believe that illnesses are the cause of negative vibrations, which can come from like hatred or anger, envy and jealousy from other people. And it can cause a long list of illnesses like agitation, anxiety, accidents, domestic problems like fighting with your spouse. And this is kind of where the term evil eye comes from. They think a lot of the negative energy comes just from the eyes of somebody, and it can be directed towards you, and you can get a lot of the negative side effects from someone giving you the evil eye.
Oh.
So there's a lot of charms and like cleansing kind of rituals that you can use to protect yourself from evil eyes, so that other people aren't giving you their negative vibrations and negative influences, basically, so it doesn't affect you as a person. And you can just kind of like push it off, and you're like, not today. That's a lot of what voodoo is. It's just kind of cleansing.
Like a colonoscopy.
Right.
Get all that
Cleanse
bad
it.
stuff out of you.
That's a lot of what voodoo is. It's just kind of cleansing and warding off bad energies and bad spirits and stuff of that nature. But it can also be used for love, money, luck, and revenge. Ooh.
Well, you know, I just to interject real quick. I read a lot about like voodoo curses and stuff.
Yeah.
A thing about voodoo curses, at least, are self-fulfilling prophecies, where typically someone will curse somebody if you're using that black magic voodoo. If I believe in curses and you say, "I just lay a curse on you," your life's gonna fall apart.
Right.
I would start to stress out and be like, "Oh my god, my life's gonna fall apart. I'm over. Oh my
Right.
god!"
What's
and
the
then
point?
you start slipping. You start doing this. Before you know it, your life really is over because it's all in your head.
Right. So revenge spells are arguably the most interesting, I think, and what most people think when they think of voodoo. Revenge spells are spells intended to hurt somebody, and it attracts and draws power from evil spirits. A lot of the websites and things that I looked at gave a lot of warnings for people looking to do revenge spells. They have a belief that if you try to cause harm on somebody, it'll have dramatic consequences, if not familiar to the ones that you're trying to cause on the person. So, like, if you're trying to hurt somebody, basically, you're going to have karma.
That's what I was always worried about. Like, if I put a curse on somebody, I would be like, "Oh, it's gonna come back to me."
Right. And they think that if you're not well trained, that's what's going to happen to you. You have to put aside all of your negative feelings for somebody, and you have to do it in a very like
Objective way.
objective, like judgmental type way, like you're doing this for justice and not specifically for revenge.
Right.
And that way the evil spirits can't come back to you. They're going to go just for that person. So they recommend having somebody who's experienced, and they don't recommend somebody who's new to voodoo to go straight to revenge spells. They say voodoo dolls are the best way to do it because it's in between the real and invisible world, and it works good as a gateway for energy manipulation, and it's really good for beginners. So if you want to
Now,
have...
voodoo dolls, for the folks at home that somehow have gone their whole lives not knowing what a fucking voodoo doll is, what is a voodoo doll?
Voodoo doll is basically like a small doll that you make with material from a person, so like hair or like fingernails or some sort of like genetic tie to a person.
This is my fingernail ball. This is the embodiment of Tom.
Yeah, so you have like a doll, and the thought is that the doll is connected to the person.
Right.
So whenever you do something to the doll, it won't necessarily happen exactly to that person, but what you're doing to the doll is like a manifestation of like what you want to happen to the person.
Right.
It's like if you're causing harm to the doll or you're doing certain things to the doll, then the person is what's going to be affected.
I see. And typically we see in movies them using pins and needles. Is that at all accurate?
Not really. It's kind of weird. They use like a lot of oil and dirt. It's just like really weird stuff you would imagine,
Okay,
like
all right.
tying it up and
Yeah. Really, there's no worse curse than hoping that somebody gets really greasy.
Right, basically. Depending on the type of spell that you use and who's casting it, if you have like a more experienced caster, then the effects will be more serious. But there's a big list of certain like deficits that you can get, and like luck and love, success and health, if you really wanted to do them in real good. The more romantic side, you can do love spells, which is sweet, but also really fucking weird if you read them. So love spells, they also give a big fat warning saying that it can bind your souls together, and that the spells are an oath to an eternal energy or the spirits. So when you're making these spells, you're basically making a promise to the spirits that you intend to be with this person forever.
It's like getting married.
Right. It's getting married in the spiritual way that your souls are bound together forever. So you have to be really sure you want this person.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have them forever. I don't know.
It's also it's creepy.
It's a really creepy
It's
sounding thing. And the effects of the spells, as you can imagine, vary greatly depending on what you do. But some of the ones that I read will make the person want to kiss you more, think about you more, just in general want to be around you.
What's the anal one?
Did not see an anal one.
Okay.
But like you can do them in your own home. You don't need like all this weird shit.
Oh, really? So like you wouldn't have to go to like a doctor?
No. You can do these on your own. I mean,
Really?
if you want to do this stuff, I'm sure you should go to somebody who does this stuff.
You should go to the therapist.
Yeah.
That's probably a good
But
starting
one
point.
I thought was weird. I wish I would have written out the whole thing, but you just use cooking oil and you
Really?
you soak the person's finger in cooking oil, and they said to act like you're taking their pulse. To like trick them into sticking their finger into cooking oil, and then you like rub the oil all over your lips like lipstick, and then you kiss them, and that will make them want to kiss you more. If you rub like cooking oil all over their hands, and then
Quick pro tip to everybody listening: that's not going to make someone want to kiss you more.
Yeah,
That's probably going to be the opposite effect.
Another one was that you write your name on two ends of a piece of paper. So like you write your name on the left and person's name on the right, and then you get a candle and you put the melted wax on one side and you fold the paper over so that your names are sealed together.
Oh.
Sealed together forever, and your souls are bound.
Bound by wax.
And then there was another one where you get the number of letters in your name and then the number of letters in the other person's name. And that is your lucky number, and you write it on the inside of your underwear.
And you put it on the inside
And then
of
you
your
put
underwear?
you write it on the inside of your underwear.
This is serious business.
And then you smash your vagina against it a lot. These are all aimed towards women, by the way. Like, none of these
really?
are for men. Yeah.
Oh, that's sexist.
They're all like, oh, and then you'll make your man love you. I was like, I don't want no man.
A little bit dated. Yeah, because now that's funny. Because nowadays, when you think of this, like I personally,
I would think of a man.
I think of a man.
It's weird.
That's crazy.
But
so underwear. That's really strange.
it's very I read that and was one of those like, hold on.
What? Huh? Yeah, did I get that right?
This is like something I would do in middle school
Right.
to get my crush to like me.
like if 13-year-old you found this, you're like, it couldn't hurt to
And
try.
then your mom finds it when she washes your laundry. And you're like, I just wanted my boy to like me.
I just wanted her to talk to me. What?
So there's a lot of different variations of like these kind of spells that you can do. But for the most part, the rituals done are done in public with a big mass of people.
That's embarrassing for the underwear one.
Yeah. A main one is Fiti for a Lua, where a bunch of people come together to call upon and serve the spirits. And this type of ritual, the spirits will often possess the people attending. And when this happens, the Lua will prophesize, they'll heal, cleanse, they'll bless people, and they'll assist in resolving certain issues. But usually the Lua will try and help the people who are attending the ritual. And
Did you read about like what the specific items that the gods like favor?
no.
Like for certain luas, I really can't think of one right now, but certain luas prefer certain liquors, certain foods, certain colors, like those water spirits I was talking about.
Right.
Typically you leave out a glass of water to help like summon them.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Or to please them.
Mm-hmm. But then there are also the private rituals that you can do. These are usually like what you pay to have done. Like you would go seek somebody out
Like
to
the premium subscription.
Right, the premium subscription. You get like a nice little taste of being possessed.
And you get a free tote bag with it.
There's different names for each of these different types of private rituals. So Wanga, I'm probably pronouncing all of these wrong, is what I was talking about earlier, like love, money, revenge, all that stuff. There's Gads, which is like protection spells. It's like the evil eye. A lot of people try and get protection from other people, giving them a stanky look. And then there's a really interesting one that threw me back a little bit in surprise. You can get married to a Lua. In this case, a person is bound to the spirit and is obligated to it, and vice versa. So basically,
can you not get married if you marry a spirit?
I don't know. I think it's more of like a spiritual thing. Like you're supposed to serve this spirit, and then in turn the spirit is supposed to serve you. So you would pick a specific spirit that you want like help in some area of your life, and you would marry it. and it would help you, and in return you would do certain aspects or tasks for
Yeah,
the
you know what
spirit.
this reminds me of is I mentioned briefly Santeria, which is like a sister religion to Voodoo. And in Santeria, with that belief, people who practice it, when you are first brought into the religion, you go through this whole ritual where you are assigned like your spirit. For example, like a Lua. Your saint, similar to how creolized Voodoo is. Say like you have like the thunder god, whoever that is. That's because your personality is a certain way, and so for your life, that spirit is the one that's looking out for you. So that's your saint. And then like there's a whole ritual where like you have to shave your head and like wear white for a certain amount of time. It's a real crazy thing. But
That's
it
interesting.
seems really cool. But yeah, it's just similar to that.
I like how you're caressing your chest.
I
while
literally
you talk
just
about
tweaked
this.
my nipples as I talk to you. It's the first time I've ever done that in front of somebody. Not that I do it alone a lot, but yeah.
Usually
So
that's kept in private.
that's what that reminded me of, which I think is super cool. I love being assigned to things.
Right. It's kind of like Hogwarts.
Yeah, I assigned my own little
yeah,
god.
like I kind of want to be assigned a spirit.
Yeah, that'd be so cool. Like, oh, this is your dude, and like he's gonna
Right.
look out for you. You, yeah.
Yeah. The last kind of ritual was cleansing. That's another really popular one. And usually it's in the form of baths. So basically,
Oh, so literal.
yeah,
cleansing.
like you just kind of pay somebody to give you a special bath, and then you're cleansed of all like bad spirits and negative energies. And yeah, basically just a lot of the rituals and spells are for protection against the evil eye, being cleansed from that, or curses and that whole business. So Jeremy,
What up, Lee?
good vibrations.
Okay. So before we close out, let's throw out some good vibrations. Or good energy, as the Voodoo people would say.
My good vibration is everything I accomplished in 2018, leaving shitty environments, and spawning a new era of Kaylee. Woo!
This will be the bloodiest era the Earth has ever seen. And you will never, ever underestimate the power of Lee. My good vibrations are to everyone who is entering a new year. Good luck. You're going to rock it. Even if you don't, you're going to rock it.
You're gonna rock it.
Don't worry about the semantics. As long as you survive the year, having learned something, it was a year well spent. So,
Aw, that's nice.
also, I want to send out some good vibrations to Red Dead Redemption 2, which I have been
Ooh.
sinking my life into lately.
Nice.
It is so much fun. I am a cowboy. And you know what? I'm going to buy a 10-gallon hat. I'm going to have a good time. I am a cowboy.
We talked about a lot of stuff.
We did talk about a lot of things. We talked about our New Year's resolutions.
Yeah, New Year's resolutions.
We talked about...
also whiskey and bourbon.
And we delved into the mystical world of voodoo.
Right.
Talked about curses and gods. And
Right. If you would also like to send in a question to us, or if you'd like a good vibration you want us to mention for someone special out in your life, let us know. You can email us at accordingtoanidiot@gmail.com, or you can tweet us at idiotsaccord. You can also message us or get a hold of us on Instagram at accordingtoanidiot. We're also on Spotify now. Through Podbean. We're still on SoundCloud, still on all the other stuff we're usually on, but now we're also on Spotify.
Yeah,
so
so you guys can find us wherever you want. I think actually any of the main ones, you'll find us.
download them all on all.
Give us a
of-
review on iTunes. Tell us what you thought of the episode if you want to.
Yeah.
And we will love you. Thanks for listening. We got some more great stuff for you to expand your understanding of all that is weird.
Yeah, I'm gonna footsie you so hard right now.
We're having a little powwow with our feet right now.
Ooh. I love you guys. Goodbye.
Bye, guys.
Let's keep doing that. It feels so good.
I'll put a spell on you
Oh, my hip.
because you're mine.
No, it's, and now you're mine.
And not fuck. Okay, well.
I put